Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Lego. Obviously this week I've got you, well you've read the title, I've got Generic Stud on. Say hi, man.
Hello, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good. Obviously today we're going to be talking about something that I know virtually nothing about. And I figured this would make a very interesting episode, considering I would consider you one of the gods of Ninjago at this point.
That is probably the best compliment I've ever been given, quite frankly.
Mainly because, I mean, your channel's blown up, and obviously it focuses solely on Ninjago, at least from what I can see. And I just want to basically ask, and this is what we're going to start with, why do you like Ninjago so much?
Okay, Ninjago. I think it dates back to 2011, when I was very young, and I just thought it was cool. It's cool, isn't it? Ninja. They're like powers. It's like Avatar, but Ninjago and Lego. It's cool. So, most people, generally when they're like 5 or 6, I don't know how old I was, I might have been around that age, I don't know. They tend to grow out of things that they like. But me, on the other hand, no. I just stayed with Ninjago. I don't know, it's just cool. Ninjas, yeah.
Basically, it cool.
It's just so, you know, I don't think, if anybody watches the show for the first time, I don't think you can find it uncool. Like, it's just, it's just insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, that, I'm sure, I'm going to get to the show a bit later on. I want to talk more about the sort of line as it is first, because I think the show is a very, very important part of Ninjago and the reason everybody likes it so much. And again, I haven't seen it, and maybe that's just why I'm uncultured enough to not know what Ninjago is. But in terms of, like, Ninjago's been going for a very long time now. I would say that their sets have got considerably better from when they first came out, obviously, to now. And obviously they do the legacy sets. What do you think in terms of set quality that they're like compared to when they first came out?
That's a good question. So I don't want to like advertise it, but one of my videos that I did recently was I bought a set from 2012, and one of the really interesting things that you kind of see with the evolution of Lego is the way that they build their sets. So with the set from 2012, there's a lot of exposed studs, and it was quite clunky. And I've got a lot of sets from 2011 and that, and I kind of look at them, and there's so many different things that I don't necessarily know if this is Ninjago or just Lego as a whole, but there's so many things that are just built differently back in 2011 to how they would be built now. I think they've definitely started to focus a bit more on vehicles and stuff, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, see, I I noticed that the only set that interests me at the moment is the big white mech, the Zane's mech, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I took a look at the previous generation because obviously I didn't realize that there was a previous generation one, and it definitely has improved.
Yeah,
obviously,
definitely, yeah.
Obviously there's price point and everything to consider into that factor, but I think you're right when you say that Lego has evolved and they've made obviously new ways to make things. Obviously there's new pieces, and I think they've just also got a better understanding of how things like, you know, robots and mechs and stuff like that work. And for me, Ninjago is a lot solely based around like cool vehicles and mechs and stuff like that, because that's what you tend to see the sets being. And I think of myself as probably one of the biggest hypocrites, considering considering my sig fig contains of Jay's face and Jay's hair.
Yeah.
It's basically a skin tone Jay, and I want to go ahead and say that was completely random. I didn't actually know of Ninjago when I was building the sig fig, so I've had so many messages, people going, "Oh, you're a fan of Ninjago, right?" I'm like, "What is?" I'm like, "What is Ninjago?"
Oh my! Do you seriously not know what Ninjago is at all?
Not in the context of lore. Like, obviously, I know what the sets are. You see them when you go into a shop, but in terms of like, in terms of like the actual TV show, and in terms of like the way that the sets are built and the reason there's all these like dragon arts in their sets, like no clue, absolutely none. And I haven't bothered to even look into it because it just doesn't seem like one of those things that interests me at all.
Yeah. So like I think that's a really interesting thing because in my mind, it's like everybody knows about the lore of Ninjago. So I guess a question I would have for you is, as somebody who doesn't know anything about Ninjago, the lore and that, what's your point of view on the theme as a whole? What do you think about it?
I mean, I think it's very, very selective because it's like you say, they make a lot of like vehicles, and being someone who loves Lego vehicles, I have been tempted multiple times by Ninjago sets just based on how cool they look as vehicles. Like I say, the one that interests me at the moment is the Zane mech, which I guess you could technically class as a vehicle.
Yeah.
So that there, in like, I'm into my robots. I like my cars, and obviously I've built the train. But in terms of Ninjago, I see it purely on like a Pacific Rim kind of situation, where I see them. I see cool vehicles, cool cool mechs, and I go, oh, that's cool, and then that will be the determining factor if I buy it. I buy a lot of sets for minifigs, really, the Harry Potter theme, the Star Wars theme, ideas. I buy a lot of sets for the minifigures in those cases, but I feel like with Ninjago it's the complete opposite. I'll buy them for the sets because I don't know who these minifigures are.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I think like the minifigures are a big down point of Ninjago in my opinion, because they always seem to play it really safe with just having one of the 6 ninja in each set. And like obviously like you don't know much about Ninjago, but one of the big things that is a huge issue, obviously there's this huge TV show and extensive lore surrounding it. There's so many characters, like it's honestly unbelievable how many characters we haven't got in minifigure form. I kind of like the analogy I use is it's almost like Star Wars. If Star Wars had only had Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, and they were the only minifigures you ever got in any sets, there are hundreds of other characters that you would want, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's a good justification for a minifigure series.
I was gonna lead on to that. Is that the reason that everybody is saying that they want a minifigure series out of Ninjago? When, as far as what I've seen on the internet, a lot of people, obviously all of the Ninjago fans want them, but people who are fan of like Ninjago and other sets seem to say that they don't need them because the sets come with enough bigs. What's your take?
It's just not variation is the issue. I think.
Right.
I think we probably do get a lot of minifigures, but it's what characters the minifigures are of. It does seem like a big missed opportunity for something that is as big as Ninjago to not have a way to get different characters.
Yeah, and I know you could argue the same with other themes. Like it's like you say, imagine only getting like certain Star Wars characters in certain sets and not ever expanding. And and I think that would probably be. I think that would be something that pisses off a lot of people. So I can understand now why maybe people would want a Ninjago CMF. I mean, do you think? I mean, I honestly don't know the answer to this question, but do you think that there is enough characters and enough variation that Lego would go, yes, we could easily make a CMF out of something like Ninjago?
I think, like, in terms of characters and variations, without a doubt, you could definitely do 12 or 24 minifigures in a series. The issue would come is Lego would have to have, like, 6 of the minifigures would be the ninja. You'd have Sensei Wu and Garmadon, guaranteed. So already then, you've got 8 minifigures, which would be over half of the minifigures if it was, like, 12, and quite a significant amount of it is 24. It's all going to be taken up by the main ninja and Wu and Garmadon. Where people really want minifigures is just side characters.
Right.
And I couldn't see Lego realistically putting out a CMF of just side characters. Like, for Star Wars, for example, they wouldn't just do loads of Cantina aliens that only real Star Wars fans would know. They would put, Luke, Leia, etc. in the series to sell it.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Seeing as it's the 10th anniversary this year, I think it's incredibly unlikely. Like, if they were going to do it at any time, they would have done it now. Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that kind of leads me on to why Ninjago is such a massive thing. And obviously, we were saying that we were going to talk more about the lore and everything, and I think now's probably the opportunity. Obviously, Ninjago is a TV show as well. And like I say, I've never seen the show. Basically, what is it?
It's basically just the Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. People try and say it's not, but it basically is. You have this group of friends, um, where there's 6 of them, and they just go from place to place, fighting people and trying to save the world. In essence, that's the bread and butter of it, if you will.
Right.
I think where Ninjago gets really great is it has, on the surface, people just see, it's a kid show. Like, objectively, Ninjago is a kid show. It's made for children, and I get that. But I think there's quite a deep and rich lore, and especially on Twitter, I don't know if you follow him, but the creator of Ninjago, Tommy Andresen, I think is his name. Like, some of the stuff that he posts on there, and some of the details and random little facts that he has about different characters and why they do things, it's so rich and so deep that I think it would be difficult for anybody not to get kind of entranced in that world, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of TV shows that do that. Like, take Adventure Time, for example, which, it was on the surface it's branded for kids and everything along those lines, but obviously looking deeper, there is such an extensive lore on the background, and it's actually a very, very dark series if you look into the lore and how it's how the character wants to portray it. It's the same with like Gravity Falls and stuff like that. So I mean, I could see it happening with a show like this, but because it's branded by and obviously backed by Lego, do you think that impacts possibly what they want to do with the story?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most frustrating things is like tonal shifts. So for a lot of Cartoon Network shows, for example, like I love Cartoon Network shows, they have a very distinct tone. Like maybe the first season they're a bit more directed towards kids, but then they find their own and there's a twist, and then later seasons it gets darker. But with Ninjago, you'll have some seasons that are really, really dark, and you'll think, right, this is when Ninjago is going to really start hitting it. Then the next season, it's just completely different, like tonally, and it just feels a bit like it's a bit all over the place. I get the sense that it's completely based off of market research, what they decided to do from season to season, and I get that, right? Like, it's a toy.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think the Lego sets themselves impact the series? Because obviously they need to include stuff like that, because obviously otherwise kids aren't going to go to the shops and buy them.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big issues that I found with like a lot of Cartoon Network shows and stuff is that there's not very much merchandise. I don't know why I find that an issue, but it's quite nice to have something from a TV show that you like. And when Ninjago, you can go into any store and there's shelves and shelves of stuff that you can buy, get your favorite characters, play with them, put them on display or whatever. It's very easy to spend quite a significant amount of money, and then you think, right, well, to justify this, I kind of want to stay in Ninjago because I've spent all this money on it already.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep watching the show. That's kind of my philosophy, at least.
Right. Okay. I mean, I would have to disagree with you slightly there, but I do think you have a point. Obviously, I think you can go into there's so much merchandise for like every single show under the sun now. I think it's I think it's mainly the quality of the products. Obviously,
I think that's fair.
Obviously, again, going back to something like Adventure Time, just because it's the one off the top of my head that's also Cartoon Network. You can get like Adventure Time plushes and action figures and stuff like that, but if you buy the action figures, you can tell that they're cheaply made. They're not very good. They're about a tenner each. It's not going to be massively great quality. You're not buying a Sideshow collectible of Finn the Human, but like in terms of Lego, they've got such a high quality bracket, like a high bar that they've set for themselves, that obviously going into a shop to buy Ninjago sets, you're going to get a decent quality product, which again I think is one of the reasons that Ninjago has managed to stick around all this time, and sort of made a name for themselves, is because they have that like Lego backing. Like if Ninjago was its own show and its own like not branded with Lego stuff or anything, I don't think it would be around as long as it probably has been.
Like, so obviously a lot of other TV shows are still on air because a lot of people watch them. If I'm being honest, I just think Ninjago, and people are going to really hate me for this, but it's just the truth. Ninjago is an advert. It's just, they're 20-minute adverts, and there's like 8 of them in a season. That's what they are. That's any piece of Lego media is just an advert to sell toys. That's the basic fact of it. It might be really good, but at the end, it's just an advertisement, right? So I think it's probably funded more so by the Lego selling well than the actual show getting good ratings, if that makes sense.
And I think it's also important to stress that I don't think you're trying to shit on the lore there.
No, like this is the thing though. I really love Ninjago, and this is the thing that I have to be careful explaining because I'm going to be cancelled on Twitter. But I love Ninjago, but I think people are maybe going a bit far. They're reaching a bit far when they say it's the best TV show ever. Ninjago has some gaping problems, right? I don't necessarily think the TV show is the best thing that's ever graced the screen or whatever. It's fine, but it's the lore that carries it for most people. And I think people who are really into Ninjago probably get the wrong impression that the show itself is bigger than it is.
And see, I'm glad you mentioned that, because obviously my YouTube channel is obviously one of those things, and especially this series is kind of one of those things to call out Lego for their bullshit. And obviously I appreciate that you'd say something like that, especially when you're such a big Ninjago channel, focusing on that sort of thing. I think it's sometimes needed to hear by somebody who knows what they're talking about, instead of someone like me who I could say I hate Ninjago and people could be like, "Why'd you hate it?" And I'd be like, "I don't know," it's just one of those things. But I mean, you talk about all the problems that obviously Ninjago has. What do you think of the movie? Now, I will give you that I have seen the movie,
right?
And from an outside perspective, me and my missus thought it was okay.
Yeah.
In terms of a standalone film, the story was all right. I got who the characters were from the way that they were trying to portray them in the film, and it was a fun Lego film. But what do you think of it?
I agree. It was a fun Lego film, but it wasn't a fun Ninjago film, right? So it's like that franchise had been going on for what, 6, 7, or 8 years or so. I don't know by that point, but like everybody knows of Ninjago, and I think most people have a tiny bit of an understanding of what Ninjago is about. So for me, it just didn't make any sense why they just completely switch everything up, change all the voice actors I kind of get, but the character designs and everything, because I think that definitely probably impacted on the movie's success as a whole. Because it just didn't feel like Ninjago. It was just this weird sort of hybrid thing. From a critical standpoint, the movie was pretty good, I thought. Like, the animation was incredible.
Oh yeah, I think there's no doubt in my mind that that Lego have nailed obviously the Lego look when it comes to the films that they're producing, especially nowadays where technology is just through the roof. It was amazing that they did with Lego Movie 1. No doubt, obviously Lego Movie 2 being at the height of its probably, it doesn't look any different from Lego Movie 1. And it still looks amazing. So, there's no doubt in my mind, but obviously in terms of coming from a Ninjago fan's perspective, it's like them making a Spider-Man film for all the Spider-Man fans, and then all the Spider-Man fans hating it because it doesn't do anything. It's not about Spider-Man,
Yeah, when I saw the trailer for it in 2017, I think, I was excited. Like, I remember back in the day when I was really big into Ninjago, like 2013, 14, and there was rumors floating around about a Ninjago movie. In my mind, I would have been happy with a direct-to-video, direct-to-home movie, just of Ninjago, just in the same style as the TV series. That would have been fine. Now, I get, if they're going to put it in cinemas and stuff, they can't just do the same animation style, the same 3D one that they do for the TV show.
Yeah.
But they probably could have just kept the characters the same and just made it like a jump-on point for the show, because I think that was what the movie was meant to be like. And they changed the show to make it similar to the movie so people could jump onto it. But Ninjago's already so well established, you don't need to create a new jump-on point. People are,
Yeah, people they tried to make it maybe for general audiences as opposed to people that are Ninjago fans and general audiences. They just sort of tailored it towards that way. And was I right? Am I right in saying that split the Ninjago wave? Because obviously we've got some Ninjago sets, and then we've got the Ninjago Legacy sets. Are they two separate waves now, or are they the same wave that they just do the sort of one a year of the Legacy stuff, and then something along those lines?
I think the Ninjago Legacy stuff comes out. I'm trying to think. So That's a good question. I think in summer they come out at the same time, the legacy and the normal season stuff. Then I think at the start of the year, like this year, they released the season stuff in March and the legacy stuff in January.
Right. Okay. So it divide. Do you think that the Ninjago movie divided audiences? Is I think a better question
Okay, yeah.
to ask, because obviously you've got the OG Ninjago fans that really like the show and they watch this movie and they think it's terrible, but then obviously you have the people who watch the movie not knowing about Ninjago before and then getting into Ninjago that way. Do you think it's divided audiences, or do you think it's brought
Um,
more people to Ninjago?
I think if I'm being honest, I think it's neither of those. I think everybody in the Ninjago community is kind of unanimously agreeable to the fact that the movie, like I think from a Ninjago fan's point of view, it just wasn't very good.
Hmm.
Again, I say this again, from a critical standpoint, the movie was pretty great.
Hmm.
But from somebody who's grown up with the TV show and has such a love for this franchise, it was very disappointing. And I think most people had the same sort of opinion as I do.
Fair enough. And I think, um, obviously, like I say, I saw the film. I'm still not massively into Ninjago,
Mm.
so like, I think I saw it mainly to just watch it because it was the Lego film. I saw Lego
Yeah.
Batman. I'm not a massive DC fan either. I've seen. I mainly watched it because it was a Lego film, and I think a lot of people did go and watch it for that reason,
Mm.
as opposed to obviously being Ninjago fans. Just because Lego had a good track record at the time. But obviously, it kind of leads me on to uh, how long do you think Ninjago has left? Obviously, I don't know about the series. I personally think it can only go as long as really the TV show is willing to make it go.
Mm.
From what I've seen, uh, obviously we've had introduced things now like Monkey Kid, which
Yeah.
could obviously be Lego trying to step their foot in the door with another theme that can replace Ninjago. I mean, what are your thoughts on that kind of thing? Do you think
Mm.
Monkey Kid is slowly trying to slip into the DMs and make it and replace Ninjago, or do you think it's going to be its own thing alongside Ninjago? Lego just want more themes that are theirs.
Mm. I think the big thing is that Ninjago. There have been so many other action themes that have done a similar thing to Monkey Kid, and
Mm,
being called the Ninjago Destroyers. But I don't necessarily think it's because Ninjago is better than the other themes, although obviously, in my opinion, I like it more. I just think that Ninjago is so well established. There is it would take an insane, like just a ridiculously popular theme to come along to replace it.
yeah,
You know, it's been going on for over 10 years by this point. It's got a legacy wave, which is kind of just shows how successful it's been.
mm, yeah,
In terms of how long I think it will last, I think definitely from the TV show standpoint, things do seem to be getting a tiny bit. I don't want to say. I'd probably say repetitive. And then every now and again, they'll try and mix it up a bit with a tonal shift, which kind of is a bit all over the place. I couldn't see Ninjago going on for another 10 years, but I think it's all completely based off of how many sets sell.
yeah. Of course. I do think that you are right there when it comes to obviously sets need to sell to fund the show.
Yeah.
The show is not funded without the sets, so it's kind of a catch-22. If you stop selling one, the other isn't going to be made. And then vice versa. If people stop watching the show, the sets won't be produced as much,
Mm.
and therefore the show will just die slowly over time. But
Yeah.
obviously, in terms of, I don't know if you've seen any of the Monkey Kid stuff. But what do you think of this Monkey Kid wave? Because obviously, the Monkey Kid wave seems to be significantly more popular than other sub themes that have tried
Yeah.
to, like what you brand as the Ninjago killers or whatever. I know a lot of people in the Lego community, especially people I've been speaking to, thoroughly enjoy the Monkey Kid sets. Not necessarily for the Monkey Kid TV show, like you say about Ninjago.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that they can get still without watching the show. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Monkey Kid sets are really great. That first wave it was so good. I remember seeing it and I was in awe and I was really scared for Ninjago. I think the thing that Monkey Kid doesn't quite have that Ninjago has is the accessibility of the TV show. Obviously, not only is it a regional exclusive, but you can't find it on Netflix, on Cartoon Network, or anywhere. So it's very tailored towards Eastern audiences, and I don't exactly know how well Ninjago does in Eastern areas compared to Monkey Kid. I think Ninjago is very much westernized for what it is, whereas Monkey Kid is kind of the polar opposite. So I don't necessarily know that they'll be competing directly with one another because I think they've got very different demographics.
You see, I think that's a very interesting point. I think it wouldn't be. I don't think it'd be too hard to take a concept for a Monkey Kid set and make it a Ninjago set, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think the sets are the main reason I bring the comparison up is because I feel like the sets are very, very close together in terms of what they actually are. Like you say, Ninjago do a lot of like vehicles, whereas Monkey Kid do also a lot of vehicles, and you know, they've got the similar sort of style. And whenever I look at Monkey Kid sets, I do think, hey, this could be a Ninjago set. But obviously, I feel like that the minifigures are a bit more interesting on the Monkey Kid side because obviously, I think it's a new theme. They're just going with new molds and stuff like that. I think obviously if you're into ninjas and stuff, then obviously the Ninjago wave could be more interesting. Yeah. But I just think the Monkey Kid sets are doing something right, and I don't want them to impact Ninjago sales. But at the same time, I think that they could be trying to slip their foot in the door for a replacement theme if they ever did want to die Ninjago down slightly. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think that could be anytime soon because Ninjago is still selling, and why would you shoot a running horse? But like, but do you think that it could be potentially one of those things that Lego are trying to replace Ninjago with in a few years' time, trying to build the establishment now, so it could be replaced in a few years' time?
Yeah, I think it's like a precautionary measure, just in case anything bad happens to Ninjago, like it just suddenly starts to flop or decrease in popularity hugely. Just having a backup plan there. So one question I'd have for you is, so as somebody who isn't really into Ninjago at all, or doesn't know about the show, do you kind of what do you think about Ninjago seemingly killing off other Lego themes? Do you sometimes wish that they would give Ninjago a bit of a break to let new themes come through, like Monkey Kid?
I mean, what themes do you brand as something like the Ninjago killers, like trying to come for Ninjago?
So like Chima, Nexo Knights, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Like
well, I mean,
action themes.
I feel like they've got. I feel like Lego put all of their eggs in the Ninjago basket, and then when they try and branch off and they try and do something like Chima or Nexo Knights, they only take like a few eggs out, they test the waters, and then if it doesn't do well, they immediately stop. Whereas I think me and you both know that Lego can have a few dud years in terms of themes, and pick up again in the next year. I feel like things with Chima and Nexo Knights is they may have been popular to some people, but in a vast, like, if you look at the bigger picture, they could just tell that Ninjago in the long run was probably going to be better for them, and that's why they stopped. That's why I like things like the Monkey Kid theme, is that they literally went all out for that first wave. As you say, the first wave was fucking awesome. And I feel like they just released good set after good set after good set, and this second wave now is no different. They have done a killer wave with like the waterfall and the umpteen amount of bikes that transform into bigger ships and the boat and everything. Like I feel like the stuff like Nexo Knights and Chima didn't have that kind of level of like balls deep. Whereas this new theme does. I'd be very interested if they did do what you said about like not doing Ninjago for a year and trying to get something else involved, or something along those, or like stopping Ninjago for a brief period of months. And I mean, I think that a lot of Ninjago fans wouldn't be happy with that, but it's like saying, oh, we're going to stop Star Wars to introduce Lord of the Rings, you know?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
You know, you're going to be very happy with some people because they get like a new theme back, but there are also going to be people going, what the fuck, Star Wars, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like Lego are definitely doing it right by introducing Monkey Kid sets, like decent Monkey Kid sets, alongside Ninjago to begin with, and then if they wanted to, they could always cut Ninjago back and then put all of their eggs in the Monkey Kid basket until something else came along in another 20 years time, you know. It depends how long they want to keep the series going, of course, and I think that's one of the big speculations, and it's just something I love talking about on this show, is like what the business brain of Lego is doing, because everybody knows that the business brain of Lego is not very big. And I think that's probably one of the most interesting things to talk about, which I don't see a lot of people talking about, and that's what this show basically is.
Yeah, I love that quote so much. That's fantastic. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I'll have to get it printed on a shirt or something like that.
Yeah, get it on like a sticker on the wall.
But I don't know if you have, obviously we've been talking now for like 30 minutes, and that's kind of the time where, you know, I try and keep these episodes sort of 30-40 minutes. I mean, do you have any final questions for me before we wrap it up? Or, because obviously I've kind of let you just waffle on about Ninjago, because I'm just greatly interested about the whole theme in general. But
so I do have a question. So you've never seen a single episode of Ninjago, is that correct?
That is correct. I have seen the movie, that is all.
I would like you, based on the sets and everything you've seen, to give a brief synopsis of Ninjago, give a brief synopsis of what you think the TV show is about.
Well, obviously there's the ninjas. They go on adventures, and obviously I've only seen the film, so the only big bad I know is Garmadon. And he has 4 arms and he looks funny. I don't know the super intricate details about Ninjago, but obviously that's pretty much the emphasis of a TV show. I reckon episodes go, you know, a bit like Scooby-Doo formula, you know, where it's like heroes are chilling in a room and everything's all good. Something goes wrong. It's Garmadon, of course, and then they go and save the day, and it might take 2 or 3 episodes to save the day, but eventually they do. And that's kind of my that's kind of my synopsis of Ninjago. And they use cool fucking robots to do it.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's basically Ninjago. Yeah.
Cool. We can deem this episode of Let's Talk Lego a success. Tommy now knows what Ninjago is.
Do you think, as somebody who isn't really into Ninjago, what is the best Ninjago set?
Ooh, see, I think, again, that's very subjective, because like I say, I'm into my robots, I'm into my vehicles. I'm not into massive buildings or anything like that, so obviously Ninjago City, I'm not going to deny that is a fucking awesome set. Is it a set that I would buy? Probably not. And even though my missus is not, I wouldn't call her a fan of Ninjago, but she likes the style, and she likes some of the characters and the way they look, like the character designs, and obviously I could argue that I like the design, considering my sig figure's basically Jay, but I don't think that in my mind, like something like Ninjago City or the docks or the gardens, like appeals to me, even though if somebody offered me them, I would happily take them. Whereas if you look at something like the big red boat with the dragon head on it, I don't know the name of it, but like that's pretty fucking cool. Same with Zane's mech, the white one. Those are two sets that I would probably, if I saw them at a good price and I had the money, spare money, I'd probably go ahead and go, cool, I could get this and then de-Ninjago-fy it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it would be one of those sets that I would probably get to work in terms of like a Lego City fantasy type of thing, rather than something like a Ninjago set. And I think that's sort of my standpoint on Ninjago, is that I would buy this set if I could turn it into something like that. I don't think I'd be buying it to, obviously have Ninjago figures and
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think people would much rather go, they point at it in my display and they go, what's that? I'd go, oh, it's a big fucking cool ass robot, I wouldn't go, oh, that's Zane Smek from Ninjago,
Yeah.
And I think that's my standpoint on Ninjago, and I'm really glad that I've been able to talk to you, and I thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
On Let's Talk Lego. This has been one of the most fun episodes so far, I think, to record. And if you guys haven't heard of Generic Stud, his link will be in the description. He makes Ninjago content, and his editing is on another level. So I'd highly recommend going and checking out his channel if you're even remotely interested in Ninjago. But that's been everything, guys. I thank you all for listening. I just want to throw out and say that I know a lot of people are complaining that this is on YouTube and not other platforms. I'm really looking into trying to get it on other platforms so you guys can just listen to it if you guys don't have YouTube Premium. Thanks everyone for watching this episode of Let's Talk Lego, and I will speak to you guys in the next one. Goodbye.